3 hams will certainly kill him. 3 hams.
Hello and welcome to the Catboy Rants. Today we're going to talk about a movie that I saw when I was quite young on a channel called KEBB, Channel 60. It was one of those shows, one of those stations that really you could only get at night with the old televisions that had the rabbit ears. And for those of you who don't know what rabbit ears are, basically what they were is 2 metal rods that stuck out on either end, and you had to kind of move them up and down, telescope them out, bring them back in to find the right actual signal. Because unlike today, where everything's digital, and you are still getting a signal through the air, but it's all digital, we didn't have digital back then. There was no internet back then, so we couldn't pull up Wikipedia to look up stuff, or Facebook to look up stuff, or get our porn from the internet. We had to go ahead and get subscriptions, go to porno shops, know a buddy who knew us, who we could get stuff. It wasn't like what it is now. And one of the movies that basically sticks out in my mind more than anything else is Megazone 2-3. This was a movie that I watched when I was very young on KEBB Channel 60. And I will not lie, I didn't get the entire gist of it because, well, let's put it this way. This is what you got whenever you watch KEBB Channel 60. Yeah, that's basically what you got. Now with DVDs, we get a lot more. One of the things I like about this, I haven't really gone into this video in quite a while. I love the fact that ADV Films had, granted they're no longer here, but these were forms that you could fill out, and they would ask, how often do you buy anime and such. Sometimes you get 2, sometimes you get 1, sometimes you wouldn't get them at all. But I don't know anybody who really filled them out and sent them in. Mostly because most of us who filled them out could actually go ahead and answer a lot of these with all the time. Like, especially with Anime Network, it's still out there. Anime Network. Do you watch Anime Network? Now, where I grew up? No. In fact, the only place I knew when I was growing up that had Anime Network was Seattle, Washington. And a lot of you who watch these and think, well, Washington is all like Seattle. No. I live on the eastern side of Washington State. And on the eastern side of Washington State, we are a semi-arid desert, which is mostly farmland. We did not get that kind of stuff. When Seattle was dealing with internet stuff, internet problems, we were mostly dealing with tractor problems. So, not the biggest place for technology, which would have changed if not for certain things that happened in the past. Now, one thing I always loved about these was they usually gave out some sort of incentive. This was one of the incentives. Nice little poster that you could put up on your wall. I never did because I didn't want to, because if I did, then, well, it would be all ruined. The character you see on this is Eve, which we will get to later. I will let you know that through all this, a lot of people originally thought of this, that this was Robotech the movie. Now, a lot of people thought that because that's how it was actually given to the American people, was Robotech the movie. You look at Orgus. A lot of people thought it was Robotech. Megazone 2-3, Robotech. There's a lot of shows out there that people thought, oh, that's Robotech. It's not. Macross is Robotech. Southern Cross is Robotech. Mospedia is Robotech. But Megazone 2-3, Granted, it does have a transforming mecha, but it's a motorcycle, which would be more like Mossopedia, or Robotech, the third one. I'm sorry, I won't call it by name because honestly, out of all of them, I didn't like that one. Just because all they did, granted they did this with all of them, they rehashed all the actual voice artists, and there was always that tease of, oh, Rick Hunter and his people are coming back. It didn't happen. But with this, you did get the same kind of art style. Granted, a lot of the 80s anime came out with that kind of art style, and you know, it's all right. I liked it. It's how I learned to draw. And a lot of you are probably laughing your asses off because of that. But Megazone 2-3. I originally, when I finally did get a copy of it, I found online a copy of Megazone 2-3 on VHS. And on that, it's kept on coming up not for resale. I got a promo disc. I eventually gave that promo disc to a good friend of mine, who I don't know if she still has it, but I wanted to give it to her because, one, she was a good friend of mine, she was going through a bad patch in her life at the time, wanted her to have it. That, and I had gotten this. So, I'm sorry, Bree, I hope you still have it, but if you don't, it's kind of the reason why you got it. It's because I had the DVD version and I didn't need the VHS version. Granted, for a lot of you out there, if you still have your old VHS anime, hold on to them, because the whole transfer over from VHS to DVD, they do change a lot of stuff. Key in point, Lupin III, Castle of Cagliostro. I love that film. However, I wish I would have kept the VHS copy. I gave that to a friend of mine as well. And the reason is because the opening sequence for Castle of Cagliostro DVD versus VHS version is entirely different. VHS version has basically a nice little storyline that opens up showing the voyage of Lupin and Jigen to Cagliostro. The DVD version has still pictures, which sucks because there's a wonderful scene where Lupin is driving the car, and as he's driving along, there's a woman walking on the side of the road, and he's on this side, and he slowly starts coming to that side to talk to her, when all of a sudden you see that she might have looked back, or she might have, you know, done something like flipped him off, and then he kind of veers right back, which is awesome. It's Lupin. You don't get that in the DVD version. It's just a still photo of the car in the background, the woman walking in the front, and it doesn't move. So, still photo. That's why I say if you still have your VHS copies, hold on to them even if you get your DVD versions, because there may be a day where, you know, society goes down the tube and all DVDs are outlawed. At least you'll still have your VHS copy. Let's get into this. Megazone 2-3 is the epitome of an 80s anime. Actually came out in 1985. 1985, people. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, that's nothing. Okay, for me, I was born in 1981, so I was 4 years old when this came out. So, great. I originally saw it when I was 13 years old on KEBB. When we open it up, it starts out with, of course, as anything in the 80s, motorcycles in a big city. Now you can find this on Bomber Bikers, you can find this in Wild 7, any actual anime from the 80s, you usually had some character with a motorcycle. It still carries on, usually he's the bad boy, and in our main character Shogo, that's the case. He is the bad boy. He goes out, he gets almost pulled over by the cops, but he gets away, nearly kills our second main character, Yui. Yui is a dancer. Now, when they meet up, he nearly runs her over with his motorcycle, then offers to take her to a studio where she can go ahead and dance. You know, it's a nice scene. It gives him a little bit of, you know, their first interaction. Shogo then goes ahead and asks her for a number, and I gotta say, if this would have happened nowadays, she would have been on her cell phone and calling for the cops or friends to come and help her, because he just blurts out, "I want your phone number." He then goes to meet up with his buddies. You meet up with two girls and his buddy, which honestly I never paid attention to this guy's name because he has an extremely bit part. Even though this guy is supposed to be like a best friend, extremely bit part. The two girls, I know I'm going to mess up her name, Tomi and Maya. They go around, they pal around. You have this nice little montage of them just, palling around the city, checking out, wearing different glasses, sunglasses, just a bunch of stuff. Until that night, after they drop everybody off, he goes to meet up with another friend. Again, another bit part. Shogo meets up, they talk for a little bit, then some people show up that are, it seems like security. They try to detain him. Shogo gets on this bike. It's a huge bike, maybe about as wide as a normal car, as long as a normal car, and probably weighs 3 times as much as a normal car. Why they think this is an awesome thing, I don't know, because if it was me, I'd see that and I'd think, damn it, what the hell's wrong with it? But there's a reason behind why it's so big. Shogo takes the actual bike, plows through a car, and doesn't get a scratch. Goes away, gets with a buddy of his, they repaint it. It's a guy owns an actual bike shop. Repaints it, and he's ready to go out on the town. Hopefully they won't notice it's him. He then calls up the girl Yui, finds out that she's roommates with Mai and Tomi, and from there it just keeps going. There's a little bit of slice of, dating scene kind of stuff. Of course, you get it moves kind of slow in parts, especially when you're dealing with the girls and him all together. It's in the beginning. Tomi, you find out, is really active in film. Mai is a singer, and Yui is a dancer, of course. They all get together. Tomi finds out about the bike. It's even found out more once it actually they find out, and Shogo is really surprised himself when it turns out that the bike can change into a robot. The bike, you find out, is called a garland. Yeah, the garland is basically a mecha suit out of the actual motorcycle. And it's kind of cool, but like all anime, you will find out that he knows how to use it automatically. And I don't mean just he knows how to, just use it as a bike or move it around, but he knows how to use all the tools in there. There's a scene where he goes after Yui because she leaves with this guy, or this, you don't know if he's a manager or a promoter. I'm thinking that this is just a promoter for a show, because she's going to sleep with him to get the actual job. Well, he uses something on there so he can see through the walls. Heat signatures, but he can see through the walls, he can hear things. How did he know how to do that? Did he read a manual? I don't think it came with the manual. Where the hell did he learn that? Anyways, he busts in, gets her out, she laughs at him, they leave. Tomi decides that she's going to make a movie out of this. So she says, "What do you think, Sho? Do you want to go ahead and play the male lead?" And goes, "Sure." And he shows, "Even if Yui plays the female lead?" And goes, "That's fine with me." So they're all right with it. Sho and Yui basically this then becomes a film inside a film. While they're searching for spots, Tomo rides on the back of the Garland, and they get away from a police officer and turn down this one road that leads nowhere. When they stop, an elevator takes them down and then up. Yes. And they end up in the middle of this huge, looked like, those of you who've seen Babylon 5, they had all along the top, all the way around, you had the city of Babylon 5. That's what this is. And in the middle you have a giant cylinder that in the middle is just filled with light. Nobody's in this city. I mean, it looks completely dead. They drive around. She takes some more video. He then takes her back, says, "You need to go back up to the top." He drives around, fights some guys, then finds this gentleman called BD. BD is a security man. He's doesn't say if he's a general or a colonel or a sergeant, but he's part of the military. And they know what's going on. And they explain to him, "You are not in a city. This is not underground. You are in a spaceship. And it is not 1980. It's several centuries since, like 500 years. Holy shit. 500 or 3,000 years. And what's happening and why they're getting everything geared up is on their proximity sensors, they've picked up another ship that's coming to them. So they're getting ready to fight this other ship. If they fail, they're pretty sure everybody's going to die. So it's basically a do or die situation for them. Sho decides he doesn't want to go with BD because if he does, you know, his buddy who died, who was killed by the military security guys, BD was there. He was one of the guys that was there. He'd be going against that, so he decides he's not going to join with them. He wants to get revenge on these guys. And then you kind of go away from that, and you have more of the movie that they're shooting. Very rarely do you get brought back past that point. You find out that Eve, this lady, and remember I told you there was something going to be about her, this lady right here is a computer program. Kind of like Miku and the rest of the Vocaloids. They are computer programs that sing. And that's what she's all about. But not only is she a computer program, she's actually a part of the main computer called Bahamut. Bahamut is what controls the entire ship. Now, the military is trying to get through all the layers of Bahamut so they can take over the ship. If they take over the ship, they can access all the actual defenses they need. But Eve is fighting them. The Garland is actually part of this whole process of getting past level 7 of Bahamut. Once they get past level 7, they will have all control, and then they can get rid of the Eve program. The program tells Shogo right away what she is, and that he needs to fight. But again, we're doing a movie. So Shogo goes through, they do the movie, he explains to Tomi that maybe they should do a movie where everything that they have been told is a lie, and that they should think that they're living in a giant spaceship. He doesn't tell anybody that's real. He just tells them that that's his idea for a movie. Tells them that he just came to him. Everything goes along. They kind of finish up some of the actual filming. Yui and Shogo decide that they are going to have sex, so they go off to a love hotel, and they do have sex. In fact, this is one thing I like about Megazone 2-3. It was the one 80s anime where you actually see nipples. Now, I'm not saying this as a pornographic thing, I'm actually saying this as an important thing. Because if you look back to Tank Police, a lot of other shows, you don't see nipples in the anime. Now, Ranma 1/2, you do see a nipple. But in this, that's in a flash. This is in a sexual type of format. They're gyrating, there's, you see here, you don't see anything, down below. You don't see it downstairs, but you see up here, which is a big thing. You usually didn't see that before. Now, I do say Lupin the Third, you got that. But again, different thing, okay? Anyways, they have sex. While this is happening, a coup happens between the military. The guy who's running it is BD. At the same time, one of the military goes and kills Tomi, shoots her right through the head and takes the tape. The film. Mai leaves because her father calls her back. Her father is actually part of the military. He says, no, I want you to come back. You need to come back home. Yui is distraught, stays there. Shogo decides he's going to just kick some ass, take them all out, gets on the garland and goes. And this is where, I will be honest, this is where it got fuzzy for me on what happened while I was watching it on KEBB. Let me remind you, this is what I saw most of the time watching KEBB. Okay? From what I remember, he went back and he fought, and he was told that not only was everybody on the ship, inside a ship, but most people were holograms, and you could never tell who was a hologram or not. So, after he fights, he loses the garland in a fight, gets back up, and starts walking back to town. He finally gets back to town, and the last thing he thinks of is his girl. That stuck with me from the age of 13 until the age of 22. 21, when I first found the video. Because I didn't know what the name of it was. And I watched it all the way through. Because that was beautiful. That was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ending to that film. That's not how it ends. He goes out and he fights, of course. He takes out a lot of guys. Runs out of ammo, steals a guy's gun, kills a bunch of people. There's a wonderful scene where one of the guys ejects from his own cockpit and slams into an overhead because, he only had like 6 foot of clearance, and he decided to hit the ejection button and slam himself into that 6 feet. He fights, he pummels a few guys, he meets up with BD, they fight, and BD kicks his ass. He drags himself out of his ship. You hear that the battle is going very poorly for our side. The other team, the other ship has 50 years of advanced weaponry on their side versus what the other team has. Our team has nothing that could counteract what they have, so it's going very poorly. But they keep slamming him with more and more. When you next see Shogo, he is limping through town. And he falls and he starts thinking about Yui, about his love, and he gets back up and starts walking. That determined walk of, and that's the end. Now, a few things about this film that really struck me, both when I was younger and now, is the use of music. Now, this is why a lot of people think that this is Robotech the movie, is because with the use of music, Eve is there to placate a lot of the people. Just like Min-Mei is there to placate the people while they're on the SDF-1. Both shows take place in a giant spaceship. Only thing that's different between those two is one, everybody on the SDF-1 knows they're on a spaceship. Everybody that's on Megazone 2-3 don't know they're on a spaceship. And in fact, when they start getting notice that they're being attacked, it's not being attacked by another spaceship. It's being told that they're being attacked by an unknown country. Now, they also explain how people actually travel in this. Now, what happens, you go to America, you're there for 2 weeks and then you come back. Great! You know what really happened? You went to the airport, you got on the airplane, you were drugged, that you were then hypnotized, made to think that you were there in America for 2 weeks. Then you went ahead and came back and went, wow, I had a fun time. And they also explain why they chose the 1980s. As per the computer, they chose the 1980s, the later part of the 20th century, was because that was the time of human existence that seemed the most bright. Which, it says something about the 80s. Yes, we did, towards the end, have the Iraqi War. We had wars in the 70s and the 60s. But the 80s were kind of good. We had the Iran-Contra. But again, it was, if you really look at a lot of the 80s movies, it's really upbeat, really trying to go ahead. It's grab money, grab power, get the girl. Look at any Michael J. Fox 80s movie. It's basically that. And that's what they're trying to say, is it was an upbeat time. And myself, looking back on it, I was only 9 years old when the 80s ended. I liked it, because there's a lot of things out there that made me think about made me think about what was going on. Recently I talked to a good friend of mine that said, if I ever went back in time, I'd want to go back to that time where I grew up. Not so much because of just, to see myself, to see, help things. No, I want to see how things were. There's a store that was here called the Country Store. It was wonderful. It was huge. Had a pet shop, fully stocked pet shop, a pool store, a frickin' ass cool arcade, a general store, a clothing shop, a footwear store, and a just whatever you want to get store. All within one huge, it was like a mall. It was great. Absolutely, you could get anything there. Now, the people that were there were not the nicest people in the world, but yet, of course, they had the frickin' cool arcade. Mom and Dad gave you, $5 worth of quarters. You'd be in that arcade until they said it's time to go, and you'd still have $4 worth of quarters. Unless, of course, you really suck at games. Nowadays, you can't find really an arcade. If you do find an arcade, how much does a game usually cost? $1, 50 cents, 75 cents for one game. And usually most of those games only have one life.
Time for go to bed.